Greetings to one and all, it's your old buddy Jay here, coming at you with another episode of Countermeasures Game Changer. Now, today I would like to talk about Sifu, or Sifu, or Sufu, or however you want to say it, or Seafood. This is a game which was developed by Slowclap. It was published by Slowclap, and it's just come out on Microsoft. So it's on the PC and PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. I've been waiting for a decent game to play. Obviously, I've been playing Master Chief and the whole Halo series and all that kind of stuff, and been getting quite into that. And I've pretty much beaten that now, and I did have a really, really good time with it. And then I had a few other games on my list which I've been playing, which I've been reviewing, which haven't been so good. And then Sifu was one that I was sort of waiting to come out because it looked quite good. You know, I do like a bit of a beat 'em up every now and again, and I liked the Sleeping Dogs game back in the day, which was essentially a game where you were a cop in, I think you were in Japan, and you were going around solving crime, but there were certain parts of that you had to do like hand-to-hand combat. So it was a bit like GTA, but it was a bit sort of open world, and I did really enjoy the story of that. This isn't that. This isn't an open world game. This game is a very linear game, but there's a lot of combat in it, so it just strips away any kind of crazy RPG elements, and it is just a straightforward combat game. So let me just give you a synopsis of what this game is. I'm just going to read it off here. In a city of China, a group of 5 martial artists consisting of the botanist, the fighter, the artist, the CEO, and the leader, they attack a martial arts school, which is what you're seeing here in my gameplay here. The opening tutorial is essentially you starting the story off as the bad guys, and you are going to kill, I think it's just one of your teachers. And during that process, spoilers by the way, but this is all the setup, so I won't go into the end details. Yes, ultimately what happens is you end up fighting the guy that runs the school that actually taught you how to fight, and right at the end of this initial sequence, you are confronted by a young boy who is Sifu as a young kid, and then that's sort of like the introduction. Then there's the kind of the credits, and then it goes straight into the game, which is Sifu several years later when he's been training to hunt down 5 of the guys that killed his father. So it is very basic. It's very straightforward. What I love about it is I love the art style. So it's all very illustrative. It's all very, it's not too realistic in as much as how it looks, but I do like that. Some of those kind of like, the way that people do those can often put me off because it takes me out of the experience a little bit, but it feels very kind of manga cartoony to me, and I really, really like that style. And it doesn't need to be overly complicated. It doesn't need to have super high textures on everything, which this doesn't. It has a very kind of flat shaded approach to how they've done the art style, and I really, really like that. I think it's really engaging and it's a little bit different. That doesn't mean that the mechanics within the game don't feel realistic and don't connect, because they really, really do. When you're playing this game, it's you have very small windows to counter. You have your kind of your punches and your kicks. You have a whole load of different techniques that you can learn throughout the game that will help you become a better fighter. And also, like playing Dark Souls, when you lose, you reset and you just keep trying that section again, and then you reset and you keep trying that section again. I think that with Dark Souls, it's very, very punishing in as much as it resets you right back to earlier in the game and maybe a different kind of build of your character because you hadn't saved him by the time you got to the point where you died. Whereas with this game, you do actually have several opportunities through a single gameplay to sort of run through and really engage the enemy in an interesting way and learn something before you are actually completely killed and you have to reset the level. So the way that works is that rather than give you just an energy bar, which you do have, but rather than just have an energy bar and then it's game over, or to give you lives and then it's game over, it actually works like this, which is that when you start off as Sifu, you are 20 years old. Every time you get knocked down or beaten by somebody that you're fighting as you're going through these very sort of corridor-based levels, you get years added onto your life. So when you have like a talisman. The story goes that there's a talisman that I believe was owned by your father, and has magical properties which mean that when you get knocked down, you learn a lot more, but when you come back, you've aged. So let's say you start off as 20, so let's say you get knocked down kind of like 3 or 4 times, then the amount of years that are added on are like 4 years, and from then on within that level, every time you die and come back, 4 years will be added on, or 5 years. And certain people you fight will allow you to shave years off. So the idea is that you have to complete all 5 levels by the time you hit 70, sort of some mid 70s. You can get to 69, have another go, and so you could probably hit sort of mid 70s. But as soon as you hit that, it's game over and you have to restart, which I think is a really awesome mechanic. I'm never really a big fan of magic hand waving, because it kind of does feel like it's always used as a crutch for people to just kind of say, oh, well, that just does that, and it gets us out of that writing corner. I think in this instance with the talismans, I think it's just a nice little device that kind of keeps everything real in a way, and just explains how you can come back within a fighting scenario. So if a guy knocks you down, you use one of your talismans, you come back, and then they actually all comment, like the voice acting all sort of says, how did you do that, how did you come back, so it's quite an interesting sort of story that you're engaging in. So I really like that mechanic. I really like the kind of aging, and then eventually when you get to a certain age, you have to sort of restart the level, and I think that's fine. Now, what is interesting is as you progress through each of the 5 levels, you do, and 6, I guess, if you include the first one, but you do start, let's say you start level 1 as 20, and let's say you finish that level as 25, you will always start level 2 at 25 no matter what, because that's what you ended the previous level on. Now you can go back and replay level 1 and try and get a better age. So let's say you go back and you redo it, and you go through and you do it, and you're still 20. So when you then go into your next version of the second level, you start as 20. So when I first started, I think I was about 50 when I finished level 1, which isn't a good place to start level 2. So I did go back and redo level 1 several times. I managed to get to 25. So it gives you an idea that you have to really think about the overall gameplay of what you're doing, and not taking too many risks, in as much as and also getting better at the game, so that by the time you hit that level 5, or you're fighting that 5th person, the hardest boss, that you're not really old, because what will keep happening is you'll get to a certain point where you just can't progress anymore, so you have to go back and reset. And I really like that mechanic. I like the way that's been introduced. I think it's fitting with the story. It feels right with the story beats, and also it explains why people they're surprised that you come back, and it just adds a little bit of sort of Japanese mysticism to it without it being too over the top. You're not running through this with a lightsaber or magic powers. It is hand-to-hand combat, and just talking about that for a second, the gameplay is excellent. So it's an action beat 'em up, and you learn all these different skills as you go through the game. You will as you go through a level, you build up XP, and then that XP allows you to then spend that on different skills within your skill tree. Now you can just choose 1 or 2 things that you particularly like doing for that particular run, or you have a really wide selection, or if you want to, you can put all your XP into one particular skill that you like, and it unlocks it permanently. So no matter what age you are or wherever you are in your game, you will always have that skill, which I think is quite good, because it is encouraging in that, like, you play a game like Returnal, you can play that game for like an hour, get killed, and you've not progressed at all. For me, it feels like a huge waste of time. Whereas with this, it is a similar kind of thing in that, like, you can keep going forward and keep sort of failing, and it feels like you're wasting your time to a certain degree. But with the way that the skill tree is structured, you are progressing throughout that. So actually, even though you may not have particularly had a good run on that game, on that version of what you're doing in that level, you will have that skill saved for future games. So I feel like there is some progression there that actually is just enough to keep me happy. I might like a little bit more, maybe some cosmetic thing or whatever, but actually, you know what, I think it's fine. So yeah, Slow Clap, they released a game previously called Absolver, which was in 2017, and that was incredibly popular as well. I think it used similar sort of fighting mechanics, but obviously the story and everything was different, but the style is not so different. This is sort of, you know, moved forward from that, and again, I just really like it. I think it's done really, really well in terms of delivering what it promises. It has a kind of for anyone that played any sort of Dark Souls games, you'll know about the kind of the yellow bar, your stamina that you have to break when you're fighting people, you know, and it's just things that you need to be aware of sort of tactically when you're fighting. You can just go in kind of all fists blazing, but you're pretty soon going to get overwhelmed by people, so you have to be quite tactical. Also, the more you go through the levels, the more you know where a stick is going to be, or a metal bar, or a brick, or a broomstick, or, you know, these things that you can use within combat, which I really like. It's that Jackie Chan approach of using things within the areas that can help you progress. And also there are environmental takedowns as well. So if you're fighting people and you're by a staircase, you can sometimes throw them off that staircase, or you can push them into a TV, or, you know, or a fan or something like that, which I think is really exciting, because then it again allows another level of tactics that you wouldn't necessarily always consider in fighting games, which is, if I draw the fight over to this side of the room, I can use all these different things that are around me to help me take, you know, out a particularly strong person that you're fighting. So it might be that there's something on the floor that you can kick and it knocks their feet away, and then that gives you an advantage. So there's lots of little things like that they've just peppered through this that you can use if you want or not, depending on your skill levels and depending on how you like to play. So it does become more of a tailored experience for the user, and I really like that too. So yeah, as far as I can see from Metacritic, it's got a pretty favorable set of, you know, reviews. People generally are liking it. It's kind of hitting that kind of 7 to kind of 8.5 mark, which I think is quite good. You know, IGN said that it's utterly uncompromising in its design, and I like that too. It's completely you know, stylized. It's really you know, it really doesn't let you off easily, and, you know, as you play the game, there are things that you probably would have liked to have known at the start, but that's all part of the learning curve, and I feel that that's something this game does very well. It teaches you through play, and rather than punish you, and I think that that's something that's really important in games today, and it stops them from getting stale, and it also makes you feel like a total badass when you clear a room full of people, which is just so much fun. So yeah, that's my review. It's just a quick one. I just wanted to get that out there, because anyone that hasn't tried this should really, really try it, because it is brilliant. I've really, really been enjoying it. If I have to give this a mark out of 10, I am going to give this a 9. It's my, it's so far, it's the best game I've played this year, and I've been really, really enjoying it. And if you haven't had the opportunity to play it, I suggest that you absolutely try this one out. Maybe wait for it to be on sale, but to be fair, I think it was only like £35 anyway, so it's not a huge amount of money. And that's it. So with that, I'm going to leave you with a little bit of gameplay, but yeah, I'll catch up with you next time. I hope you enjoyed the review, and be good, stay safe, and be kind to one another. Cheers.